July 5th, 2025. The sweltering waters off Somalia shimmered under the rising sun, hiding danger beneath the waves. A lone cargo vessel, rusty and unremarkable to the untrained eye, cut steadily through the pirate-infested sea. But this was no ordinary ship. It was a disguised U.S. Navy supply vessel, carrying the lifeblood of an entire aircraft carrier strike group. High-density jet fuel, classified explosive compounds, and components vital for F-35 fighters and long-range cruise missiles. Its escort? Just 10 lightly armed American sailors, veterans in discipline, but hopelessly outgunned against what was coming. At 6:12 a.m., the horizon erupted. 31 speedboats, engines screaming, knifed through the waves at over 50 knots. More than 250 pirates, hardened by years of violence, bore down with rocket-propelled grenades, heavy machine guns, and steel bayonets glinting in the morning light. In moments, the calm was shattered by the rattle of gunfire. The Americans fought from behind steel containers, outnumbered 20-1, buying precious seconds. But this was no random raid. The pirates had unknowingly struck a critical artery of U.S. naval power, and in doing so, had just invited the wrath of the most powerful military force on Earth. The attack came like a sudden storm. From the shimmering horizon, 31 speedboats tore through the waves at over 50 knots, their engines screaming over the hum of the sea. Each boat carried 8 hardened pirates, faces wrapped in scarves, eyes locked on their prey, armed with RPGs, heavy machine guns, and steel bayonets glinting under the morning sun. The assault was no chaotic rush. It was a military-style operation. One group opened fire with RPGs and mounted guns, hammering the American defenders and forcing them to take cover. At the same time, a second group maneuvered into the ship's blind spots, throwing grappling hooks over the rail and scaling the sides with ruthless efficiency. Gunfire ripped across the deck. The 10 American sailors fought back from behind steel containers, disciplined but vastly outnumbered 20-1. In minutes, 5 lay dead, 3 badly wounded. The pirates surged forward, overwhelming the defense, storming the bridge, and seizing control of the ship. Survivors were tied with thick tow ropes, forced to the deck at gunpoint. But amid the chaos, one act changed everything. The ship's captain, a former Navy lieutenant, quietly reached under the console and activated a silent distress beacon. The signal shot out into the ether, heading straight for the nearest U.S. carrier strike group. Help was already on its way. The silent distress signal pulsed through encrypted channels, bypassing all civilian networks and landing directly on the operations screen of the nearest U.S. carrier strike group, less than 200 kilometers away. Within seconds, alarms blared aboard the USS Liberty, the flagship of the group. Rear Admiral Peter Sloan, a man known for his calm under fire, stepped to the command deck. His voice was steady but cold. "No one seizes a U.S. naval asset and walks away. Not now, not ever." The data feed confirmed the target, a high-value logistics vessel carrying the lifeblood of an entire carrier's air wing, had fallen into enemy hands. This wasn't just a piracy incident. It was a direct strike against America's supply line, the arteries that kept its war machine alive. Diplomacy was not an option. Warnings were a waste of time. Every minute lost brought the pirates closer to their fortified coastal base. Sloan's decision was immediate and absolute. There would be no negotiations, no second chances. The operation would be fast, overwhelming, and final. He leaned forward, eyes fixed on the tactical display. "Launch the birds, full strike package. We take it back. Now." In that moment, the clock began ticking toward one of the most precise and devastating counterattacks in modern naval history. Beneath its weathered steel hull, the captured vessel carried far more than fuel and crates. Officially designated Logistics Vessel 72 Delta, it was a floating artery in the U.S. Navy's global strike network. Its cargo was no ordinary shipment. High-density jet fuel for F-35 fighters, missile stabilizers, thermal ignition compounds, and encrypted avionics modules. Each component critical to the offensive power of an entire carrier strike group. Without this ship, the carrier's warplanes could not fly. Its missile systems could not fire. It was, in effect, the mobile heart of the fleet. The stakes were higher than the pirates could possibly imagine. If these materials were sold on the black market, they could wind up in the hands of hostile states or terror networks. Worse, reverse engineering even a single component could compromise U.S. military technology across the globe. And time was slipping away. The vessel was less than 10 nautical miles from the pirates' coastal stronghold, a notorious smuggling hub that had evaded international crackdowns for years. If the ship reached shore, the mission would spiral into a high-risk urban assault, and the cargo could vanish into the shadows. The order was clear: retrieve the vessel at all costs, or watch a strategic lifeline disappear. 3 minutes after the pirates seized the U.S. supply ship, an encrypted red alert signal lit up the Combat Information Center aboard the USS Liberty. The code was unmistakable. Priority 1, hostile capture of high-value naval asset. Rear Admiral Peter Sloan didn't need a briefing. The tactical map told the story. Every second counted. The ship was closing in on the Somali coastline, and once it reached the pirate stronghold, recovery would become far more dangerous. There was no time for diplomacy, no room for negotiation. Sloan's eyes locked on his operations staff. "Initiate Operation Thundernet," he ordered, his voice leaving no space for doubt. In an instant, the carrier's decks came alive. Pilots ran for their aircraft, deck crews armed strike fighters, and the drone control center lit up with mission data. The U.S. Navy was shifting from standby to full combat posture. The clock was ticking, and America's answer would be swift, overwhelming, and absolute. The Liberty roared to life like a war machine awakening. On the flight deck, 10 MH-60 Seahawk helicopters were rolled into position, each loaded with 30 heavily armed Navy SEALs and Marine Raiders, 300 elite warriors handpicked for shipboarding and hostage rescue. 5 FA-18 Super Hornets were armed with precision-guided JDAM bombs and YAO-7A miniguns capable of unleashing thousands of rounds per minute. Below deck, the drone control teams prepared 20 MQ-25 Stingray UAVs, AI-powered reconnaissance and strike platforms, each fitted with dual microbomb bays, advanced thermal tracking, and encrypted real-time data feeds. The formation launched in 3 waves. The first wave, UAVs, swept ahead at low altitude, scanning for escort vessels and relaying targeting data. The second wave, Super Hornets, circled wide, ready to suppress any hostile fire from the air. The third wave, Seahawks, flew just meters above the ocean surface, hugging the radar shadow zone for a stealth approach. High above, an E-2D Hawkeye early warning aircraft and U.S. satellites tracked every movement, providing total airspace dominance. On the digital map in the Liberty's command center, the hijacked supply ship was now just 8.2 nautical miles from the pirate base. If the enemy reached land, this would turn into a bloody urban battle. The clock was running out, and America was moving in for the kill. At 7:01 a.m., the hijacked American supply ship drifted within sight of the Somali coast. The pirates, convinced their prize was secure, never saw what was coming. From the east, a formation of MQ-25 Stingray drones appeared out of the morning haze, skimming the ocean's surface in total radio silence. In seconds, their AI targeting systems identified 4 pirate escort boats flanking the stolen vessel. The first wave of fire came fast. Precision microbombs rained down, striking each target with surgical accuracy. The ocean erupted into towering columns of water and flame. All 4 boats were gone, vaporized in under 12 seconds. Before the smoke cleared, 2 FA-18 Super Hornets screamed in from high altitude. They unleashed strafing runs along the ship's port side, GU-7 miniguns chewing through sandbag emplacements and pirate firing positions. RPGs exploded mid-air before they could even be aimed. Then from the west, like ghosts rising from the sea, 10 MH-60 Seahawks appeared at near-wave height. Ropes dropped in perfect unison. Navy SEALs and Marine Raiders slid onto the deck, weapons up, moving with machine-like precision. Room by room, deck by deck, the Americans advanced. One fire team breached the bridge, eliminating 2 pirates before they could raise their rifles. Another team pushed toward the engine room, deploying flashbangs to blind and disorient, then moving in with suppressed fire. The hostages, bound, bruised, but alive, were found huddled on the central deck. Medics rushed forward, cutting restraints, checking vitals, and stabilizing the wounded. Above, drones continued to relay real-time surveillance, ensuring no escape routes remained. Any pirate attempting to flee was met with immediate suppression fire. In less than 8 minutes, the ship was secured. Every pirate on board was either dead or zip-tied, blindfolded, and in custody. Not a single American hostage had been lost, but the mission wasn't over. High-altitude UAVs had just confirmed the location of the pirates' mainland base, 7 nautical miles inland, a fortified compound bristling with weapons and radar arrays. Admiral Sloan's voice cut through the comms, calm but decisive. "Switch targets. Bring it down." The rescue had been flawless. Now it was time for retribution. The coordinates came in from the overhead UAVs, 7 nautical miles inland, nestled behind jagged cliffs and dusty ridgelines, lay the pirates' fortress. It was more than just a base, it was a black market hub that had thrived for nearly a decade, trading in stolen cargo, weapons, and human lives. The compound's radar towers and fortified walls had given it a false sense of security. That illusion was about to be erased. The first wave came from the sky. 4 FA-18 Super Hornets swept in low, each armed with GBU-32 JDAM, precision-guided bombs. Flying in tight formation, they released their payloads in unison. The pirate command center disintegrated in a single deafening blast, walls collapsing in a cloud of dust and flame. Seconds later, MQ-9 Reaper drones entered the kill zone. Their Hellfire missiles streaked downward, slamming into concealed weapons bunkers and fuel depots. The impact triggered massive secondary explosions, munitions cooking off in chain reactions that ripped through half the compound. Fireballs lit the horizon, visible for miles. Panic rippled through the pirate ranks. Some fired blindly into the air, their outdated anti-aircraft guns useless against the speed and altitude of the incoming waves. Others attempted to flee into the maze of alleys and tunnels woven through the base. They didn't get far. 2 CH-53 Sea Stallion helicopters thundered in, disgorging squads of Marine raiders directly into the smoldering perimeter. Moving in coordinated sweeps, they hunted down any remaining resistance, using drone feeds and infrared goggles to track movement through the haze. No warning shots were given. By the time the last pockets of gunfire fell silent, more than 500 pirates were confirmed dead. Dozens more, too injured to run, were zip-tied, blindfolded, and loaded onto helicopters for interrogation. At 8 a.m., what had once been the pirates' untouchable stronghold was reduced to twisted steel, crumbling concrete, and rising plumes of black smoke. Years of defiance had ended in less than an hour of American firepower. From the Bridge of the Liberty, Admiral Sloan watched the final drone feed. The compound's skyline was gone, erased from the map. The message was unmistakable, both to the survivors and to anyone else watching. You don't hijack an American ship. You don't threaten a U.S. lifeline at sea. If you try, you cease to exist. When the smoke finally cleared, the scale of what had just happened came into focus. What began as a dawn raid by over 240 armed pirates had ended with their forces obliterated, their stronghold leveled, and every surviving American crew member safely recovered. But the true impact of the operation went far beyond the immediate victory. The rescue and retaliation had showcased something most people rarely see: the raw, strategic power of naval logistics. In war, the glamour often belongs to aircraft carriers, stealth fighters, and missiles streaking across the sky. But none of those assets can function without the invisible lifelines that feed them: fuel, ammunition, parts, and the specialized materials that keep them in the fight. Logistics vessel 72 Delta had been more than just a ship. It was the heartbeat of an entire carrier strike group's offensive capabilities. Without its jet fuel, F-35s stay grounded. Without its missile stabilizers, long-range strikes never launch. By targeting it, the pirates hadn't just attacked a ship. They had threatened the operational reach of the United States Navy across a vast swath of the Indian Ocean. The response sent an unmistakable message: touch America's supply lines and you touch the full force of America itself. No negotiations, no drawn-out political theater, just overwhelming, coordinated, and precise destruction delivered faster than the enemy can react. The speed of the operation had been as critical as the firepower. From the moment the distress signal was sent to the complete securing of the vessel took less than an hour. In that time, The Navy had mobilized air assets, deployed special forces, launched drones, executed a hostage rescue, and destroyed a fortified base. This wasn't just military muscle. It was a masterclass in integrated warfare, where intelligence, technology, and human skill combined into one unstoppable strike. For U.S. military planners, the operation was also a live-fire reminder of an old truth. The oceans are never truly safe, and America's global presence is only as strong as its ability to protect the lifelines that sustain it. Carrier groups, amphibious forces, and forward-deployed troops all rely on these logistical arteries. Protect them, and you protect the nation's ability to project power anywhere on Earth. For America's adversaries, the lesson was brutal and crystal clear. No matter where you are, whether hiding in urban alleys, mountain bunkers, or pirate coves, if you strike at the United States, it will find you. And when it does, there will be no sanctuary, no safe harbor, and no time to prepare. This was not just a military success, it was a declaration to every rogue actor, warlord, and hostile state watching. The American flag is never alone. And for the American people, it was a reassurance. Every sailor, soldier, pilot, and Marine operates with the knowledge that no matter how far from home they are, the full weight of the nation stands ready to protect them. That's not just strategy, it's a promise. If you've watched this far, you've seen how quickly events at sea can change the balance of power, and how decisive action can change the course of a battle before it ever reaches shore. Stories like this remind us why readiness, strength, and resolve matter. Not just for the military, but for every citizen who benefits from the security they provide. If you stand with our troops, if you believe in American strength, then don't just watch, be part of the mission. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs to understand what true power looks like when it sails under the stars and stripes. Because the ocean is vast, the threats are real, and America's watch never ends.